welcome back. It's the end of the year, and I'm your host, Sean McKinda.
And I'm your host, Jackson Keller.
And it's the third ever Horsies. We've been doing this for kind of 3 years now.
2.5 at least. Aw, yeah, here we go. It's time for the Horsies.
And you know what? We're gonna try and do this a little bit different this year. We're gonna try and be as positive as we can. We got some negatives in here, absolutely, but you know what? Overall, we're let's emphasize things that are good. You know, we're gonna talk about things we like, things we want to see. We're gonna make fun of some bad movies, but for the most part, you know what? We're gonna be happy with what we got. Damn it!
Yeah, and I think just to give an overall idea of how we're doing things here for those of our loyal fans who listen to Horsies 2017 to 2018, we've made up some new categories for the most part. I think there's one that's still a holdover. To better reflect what we do on the show here, as well as point out individual stuff from the year that was memorable for one reason or another, be it good or bad. Trying to focus, I mean, it's still honestly probably the same amount of good versus bad, in the categories themselves, just with a mind towards presentation, because when I listened to the 2018 Horsies, I was like, oh man, there's a big long stretch here where we're just grumpy. So I'm like, maybe we should mix it up this year.
So yeah, we're gonna try and be a little bit more positive with it. If you are unfamiliar with how the Horsies usually works, our first 4 categories are gonna be spoiler free, and then from there we're gonna start talking a little bit more in depth about movies. So I'm gonna put spoiler tags on it. I'm gonna tell you what is going to be spoiled, and then I'm gonna give you codes to skip to if you don't want to hear that, but you want to hear the rest of the Horsies, so you can kind of get an idea of what the winners are, but maybe not know why they won.
Yeah, I think that we've done it in the past, and it worked well then. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's the philosophy of Disney.
It is. That's why they keep printing money.
If it's good enough for them, it's good enough for us at a $10 Patreon.
Oh, all right. So let's start out.
I actually wait before we begin. Since Disney, the decade has been defined by Disney's rising dominance. Have I ever outed myself on the show as one of the enemy? Have I done this before?
I don't know. What do you mean?
That I'm a Disney shareholder, technically.
Oh my God! What? I didn't know this.
Oh, even you didn't know this? All right, so I gotta tell you guys. Speaking of Disney, I feel just like Kylo Ren, torn between the dark and the light, and that I am literally bought out by Disney, guys. I am that critic. So when I was a baby, as part of my baby shower that my mom had, I'm the second child, so that she already got for my sister's baby shower all of the practical mom need stuff. So basically, for my baby shower, people just fucked around, and they got in my name a couple of Disney stocks, which have since grown and split because they've grown so much. So I now have about $2,000 worth of Disney assets.
Holy shit!
So I'm torn because I shit on Disney all the time. So as an artist and as a critic, I'm very much not invested in what Disney is doing. But as a shareholder, Disney keep doing it. So I don't know. This just felt like a good a time as any to share this information. I didn't realize even you didn't know, so this must be new.
No, I had no idea. That's absolutely incredible.
Oh man! So now that we've got our dark plot twist out of the way,
I mean, do we want to, before we dive fully into our best ofs and whatnot? How'd you feel about the year? I mean, I think that's a good place to start as any. Is what were your thoughts overall in terms of film of the year?
Oh, you know what? That's a good point. We should definitely start with that. So, if I had to categorize the year overall, when I actually went back and looked at what we saw and what we talked about, because most of what I saw we ended up talking about. There were a few movies. I should just say this out the gate. I had less problems accessing quality films after I finally moved out of Marquette, Michigan.
What a concept!
But it still is like an hour drive to the nearest city if I want to see something a little more art house. So, unfortunately, that means that I ended up missing out on some good ones, like Jojo Rabbit and Parasites, which I very much wanted to see, and because of weather and scheduling and a lot of good movies coming out in that time, I just didn't get around to doing. There were two other like stream specific movies, like not counting like series and stuff. Like I still really want to watch the HBO Watchmen show. But as far as movies, I didn't get around to catching the Breaking Bad movie that they put on Netflix. And The Irishman I still really want to watch. Still really interested in seeing that. Maybe we'll get a chance to talk about it before Oscar season. Who knows? But as far as the year overall, I'd say that it was very similar to 2017 in that, like, I think all of the really, really strong stuff came out, like, at the end of the year in November when we had that big glut. But I think that what I'd say more for this year than previous years when it comes to the mainstream stuff, the blockbusters, is that I found myself pleasantly surprised a lot more this year. Like, I feel like there were less weeks where we came back from a movie and just had absolutely nothing to say about it. Like, usually there was some fun thing, some interesting discussion to be had, some question to be debated. And I think that it's easy for me to be, like, super sour about the Disney takeover of cinema, and people should be sour about that because mainstream blockbusters are only going to get more and more homogenized from here.
Fucking chill! Oh, hang on, wait. You said bad? Okay, never mind.
I gotta be real careful now that I outed this information. But I think that despite that, even if, like, there weren't a ton of movies that really truly blew me away until, like, November, a lot of the stuff that I saw, like, throughout the year was a lot of fun. There was a lot of stuff that I would be genuinely looking forward to the week, stuff that I wasn't looking forward to, and that ended up being really pleasantly surprised by. So, although I don't think, like, of the years that we've been doing the show, I think 2017 has probably still been the strongest. But 2019, it's been solid. It's been a solid, pleasant year of movies.
Yeah, I tried to go through and compile all the movies I saw this year that were released in 2019. I guarantee I missed some of them, but I'm counting somewhere around 40 movies that were only released this year. I watched more than that, obviously. But of those 40-ish movies, over half of them are on my good column. And then I have a couple that were like, they're fine, but, like, there was some good quality to them. So, like, they're not bad, but, like, they're fine. They're all right. They're not something I would, like, say don't go watch type of deal. And then, like, the few that I'm like, who fucking gives a fuck about, were probably about 10. So for, like, 40 movies to have 10 that I was like, whatever. That's not bad. That's pretty solid. And, like, only one or two I was outwardly genuinely upset at having gone to see. So, not bad movies. Not, perfect, but I'm not expecting perfection.
I mean, I think it's fair, like, if we were to give this year, like, a letter grade, I think this is a solid B year, you know?
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely.
Yeah, like, maybe B+. But, actually, because one thing I noticed, actually, now that you mention it, when you're talking more specifically, is that, in general, I felt more strongly about movies this year, whether it was, like, in the good way or the bad way. Like, there were definitely a lot of movies where I came to the discussion, like, fired up for one reason or another, even if that reason was that I fucking hated it. Which I feel like was less common in years previous, except for, like, I don't know, like, even when we ended up talking about, like, Batman vs. Superman, like, retroactively, a movie that I, like, fucking hated, like, after coming back to, I was pretty lukewarm on that in the conversation, whereas, like, I was out of the fucking gate for some of these things, and some of them weren't even, like, that bad, You know, like some of them wouldn't even be in consideration for my worst movies of the year, but I was still mad about it. So I guess I'm just more of a fiery person, maybe, or the movies were more memorable, which is a good thing.
I was gonna say, either way, if you're more of a fiery person, it means that they incited more passion within you, which is good, or they're more memorable, which is also good. It just means that they weren't all homogenous nightmare, and a lot of them are kind of homogenous nightmare, but they usually did something to stand out from each other. Like even a lot of the Disney stuff, like even the superhero glut, some of them really do stand out still.
Yeah, so like even like, you know, the biggest, you know, peak superhero movie of all, like Endgame. Like I didn't hate Endgame. Like I you know, had a fun enough time with that movie.
Yeah, the middle third of that movie is a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, so I mean, you know, what can I say? They're B plus.
B movie. That was nothing. I just had to say B movie because you said B enough times that Jerry Seinfeld popped into my head. What's up with that?
What's the deal with airline food if you are too fat to fly?
More like beeline food. Hey, this is nothing. Can we talk about the Horsies?
Let's go into the official fucking Horsies, my dude.
All right. So we're gonna open up. We're gonna open strong. We're gonna open positive. Best 3 movies of the year. Jackson, go.
All right. So yeah, my top 3 all came out in the second half of the year, which I mean, I guess is pretty common. I'll say this for the film industry is that unlike the video game industry, where there is a chance sometimes where you will just truly have a year where literally nothing good comes out because it's all AAA fucking sludge. The Hollywood still releases independent stuff. It still releases art house films to theaters.
For now, you Disney shill.
For now. No. So this next one on my list, not one of those movies. It's pretty mainstream fare. But it's the only one on my list that we didn't talk about on the show, but I have brought it up a couple times, and that is Hustlers. And the best way to describe what Hustlers is in terms of tone is feminist Wolf of Wall Street, I would say. Which Wolf of Wall Street is one of my favorite movies ever, so I'd say that's pretty high praise. Yeah, I just had a really great time with this one. It had a lot of thematic richness and complexity. It had great characters, it had great performances, it was a movie, like, about an interesting subject, that took sort of the, like, white-collar crime angle in a unique direction, and, yeah, it was just really funny, heartwarming in places. It was everything that I would want a, like, Hollywood production to be. Like, this felt, even though in some ways, like, it's a little more extreme because it's about, like, you know, people who ex-strippers, so there's more nudity, and it's a little more, like, out there than your average Hollywood movie in that regard, in terms of, like, filmmaking conventions, in terms of character development, in terms of emotion. This is everything that I want to see from, like, a big Hollywood production with big-name stars. And, yeah, I would highly recommend everyone and anyone would watch it. I don't recommend you watch it with family members. I went to this movie with my mom, and boy, was that awkward. I didn't know what it was about, and she asked me if I wanted to see it, so I said yes, and then within 5 minutes, I immediately regretted that decision.
Oof. I have not seen Hustlers yet. It's been on my list for a while now. I've heard nothing but wonderful, wonderful things about it. But my number 3 is a movie that we both saw, but neither of us talked about on the podcast. I don't know that we even really mentioned it on the podcast ever. I
think the only time we mentioned it was to roast it for its title. So Sean, give it the praise it deserves.
I also should clarify that these are not necessarily the best movies of the year, but they are my favorite movies, the movies that I walked out of going, yes, I really had a good time with that. Like, there's definitely better movies in terms of craft, in terms of narrative, in terms of all that good shit, but, like, fuck it, I loved it. Terminator Dark Fate fucking ruled as a movie. It managed to get me emotional multiple times, which is not something I ever thought I would say about that movie. It got me pumped. It was predictable in some ways, but also who gives a fuck? I had a blast with it. Terminator Dark Fate, if you're a fan of the Terminator franchise that was put off by Genesis, ignore it. Ignore fucking Genesis. Go watch Dark Fate. It absolutely rules. Arnie is back and is great. Oh god, it's so much fun. I don't want to spoil anything about it because there's just so much weirdness to it, but like it's genuinely an absolute blast of a movie to watch.
Dark Fate might be peak pleasant surprise this year for me. It's not on my list, but it's near the top of my honorable mentions. And that movie, like, looking at the trailers, looking at the premise, looking at the fucking title,
it shouldn't have worked.
It had no business being as good as it was, but it was a I mean, ignore more than just Genesis. Ignore Terminator 3, ignore Salvation, because this movie certainly does. It really commits to, like, being a classic Terminator movie, and it really, really succeeds at that. Really great, also highly recommended.
It's funny. Like, I think that's important to note. Like, the first two Terminators were funny. This is also funny. It's good. It's not just dour and sad and shitty. It's good.
And, well, because that was Terminator 4's problem. Terminator Genesis was also funny, but not in the way they wanted it to be.
Oh, give us number 2.
All right, so my number 2, both of the movies on my remaining top 3 are ones that we did indeed talk about on the show, so I won't belabor the point too much. But my number 2 has to be The Lighthouse. You know, I went on a real emotional journey with The Lighthouse, and I still think about it a lot. I thought when I went into the theater and was there for a little bit, I thought I hated it. And as I walked out, I was like, that might be my number 1 of the year. Which didn't end up being, but it got pretty damn close. Really great psychological thriller. Really great, interesting cinematography that makes you sick to your stomach in a way that's good and intentional. You know, great, amazing performances. The whole movie is just 2 characters, so, you know, they had to nail that aspect, and both Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe, you know, fucking bring it.
Christ,
yeah.
I'm so excited to see what Robert Pattinson does from here. He continues to just fucking rock my world every time he shows up.
I even in those Twilight movies, I have always liked him. Like, he almost made the Edward Cullen character tolerable to me. Yeah, so that's The Lighthouse. Real amazing stuff. I'm glad it wasn't on my radar because I had not seen The Witch. I really want to go back and watch The Witch now. So, thank you, Shaw.
Absolutely. My number 2 is also none of my movies we talked about on this podcast. I watched a shit ton of movies that we didn't talk about, and a lot of those were really good. Like, Dolomite Is My Name, a Netflix original movie that is basically just The Disaster Artist if The Disaster Artist wasn't trash. If you're familiar with The Disaster Artist, it's the Franco's brothers, essentially a documentary about the room, but it basically just worshipped Tommy Wiseau, it worshipped the ground he walked on, and like basically it was very, it felt disingenuous and way more just like jerking off to this fucking movie.
I watched 5 minutes of The Disaster Artist on a plane and couldn't handle it. I switched to something else.
Yeah, it's really not good. It's a lot of kind of just laughing at the content of the movie because haha, I saw The Room. Dolomite Is My Name is about the main character Dolomite and the movie that he made, which I cannot remember right now. But I haven't seen that movie, and I still absolutely love Dolomite Is My Name. It manages to nail a very like positive atmosphere throughout the whole thing. It's incredibly funny. It's incredibly good. I highly recommend it if you have Netflix. And it's wonderful. Honestly, is really what it boils down to. I absolutely loved it. It's an absolute joy to watch. Go watch Dolomite Is My Name if you got like 2 hours to kill. You're not gonna regret it.
To add that to my ever expanding list of stuff that I got to catch up on.
The list that everyone has and no one ever finishes.
I mean, if you ever finish the list, you're probably a boring person who's not paying attention.
Honestly, that's fair.
So yeah, well, I'll move on to my number one then. Like I said, one that we did talk about on the show, and one that's probably not a big surprise. My number one has to be Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I'm a big Tarantino guy, and this movie, I think, was kind of made for me. It's got that, kind of retro 60s old Hollywood aesthetic. It's got a lot of genuine, pathos that I don't expect from Tarantino, but, and I guess, because what I commented so much on in the actual episode was, how this fits into his canon, and I really want to watch this movie again, and, especially in the context of watching, all of Tarantino's films shortly after another, because I think that the great thing about Tarantino as an artist is that he has not stagnated. For a little while there, it looked like, I think, especially after Bastards and Django were, one after another, it's just is this just what Tarantino movies are now? Hyper-violent, Tarantino-style, historical thrillers, which, kind of, you could also describe The Hateful Eight and, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood as that, but Hateful Eight, and especially this, really tackle a lot of new thematic ground. I think that they're both really challenging, and I think that this one, in particular, is really heartfelt in a way that Tarantino films often are not. They're often very detached, and so that's just in addition to the movie just being an absolute blast to watch, almost 3 hours, and I didn't feel a second of it. And just all the great performances, all the great dialogue, Tarantino always brings it. And, I think that the hype has, sort of died down on Tarantino, I think. It's not quite the hero worship that it once was, but I think that people should still be keeping their eye on him, because he's one of the few consistently great singular voices that we have in big budget filmmaking. He's kind of one of the last big budget auteurs in a lot of ways that isn't relegated to just the lower budget independent or Netflix stuff. Which, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I think there is something to be said for the grand, when you give one madman a grand epic to work on. So yeah, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, that's it for me.
And mine is a movie that I have mentioned multiple times on the podcast, despite the fact that we have never talked about it officially on the podcast. And a movie that I also think might have been custom made for me, because I have discovered more and more that I want my movies to be just absolutely fucking weird as shit. I want a thin through line, and I want to see you just do weird fucking things. I want bizarre, over the top, just fucking buck wild things. If you haven't watched, this is not the recommendation, but this is another recommendation. If you haven't watched John Mulaney and the Sack Lunch Bunch, it kind of has a similar energy to that, which is just kind of wild, all out there, doing whatever the fuck it wants. And that is Greener Grass. I have previously described it as the Too Many Cooks short, quote unquote short, from Adult Swim that went viral a couple of years back, but in a way that doesn't make you want to kill yourself by the third minute. It is absolutely wild. It's nonstop. It's relentlessly funny. It's bizarre. It's unrelenting. There's so much that I could talk about with it, and I don't really know where to begin with it. It's kind of bloody in a weird way. It's so good. And it just kind of makes me want to cringe and crawl in myself, and also live within this terrifying, terrifying world, which is apparently what I want for movies now. This is not where I expected to end up being when we started this podcast. I thought I was pretty normal and blasé with my movie taste. And look at me now. Look at me now. This was my favorite movie of the year, and it was utter nonsense, and I fucking adored it. Holy goddamn shit.
I mean, I will say, I have a bit of an anecdote, in that when Sean was doing a write-up about greener grass, and he consulted me about what he could possibly say about this thing, when he told me the line about it making that comparison to Too Many Cooks, the first thing I said was, all right, I absolutely want to watch this movie, and secondly, you cannot use a better comparison to sell somebody on this, so you have to keep that in your article. So yeah, I have not watched Greener Grass yet. I'm a lame-o who hasn't seen all the cool stuff. I don't have as much film buff cred as Sean does, unfortunately, but that just leaves a treat for me to snack on later.
It's available if you're looking for it. It's on Amazon for streaming at like $4 or $5 to stream it. I also highly recommend that. I don't know where else you can get it. I hope to find a Blu-ray at some point because yes, I will buy a Blu-ray because I am that person, and I am not going to apologize for that.
Boomer!
All right. So those are our positives. Those are some great movies. We both have some honorable mentions. We're going to save those for a minute because we have to talk about our most disappointing movies of the year. And this is not necessarily the worst movies of the year. That's coming in a minute. These are movies that we were excited for. We were hoping something would come out of, and then we're left feeling shitty about them. And this, I'm just going to say, Jackson, give us all of them. Like, just short summaries. Tell us what you want.
Yeah, no reason to drag this out. No reason to drag out the sadness. Okay, so I've got 3. We both have a couple. I'll give a bullet point to what I'd say my most disappointing was. The movie I immediately jumped to was Rise of Skywalker. It's not my number 1, if only because I did not expect much out of J.J. Abrams, frankly, after rewatching The Force Awakens. And I think that this is more so after having watched all of the new trilogy in such close capacity. More of a dishonorable mention for Disney's handling of the Star Wars franchise, and how they've sort of floundered and squandered what should have been a great opportunity. And so... yeah, it's not the worst movie ever made, but it's emblematic of a lot of the problems that Star Wars has as a brand and that Disney has as a company. So I felt that deserved a special shout out. A more personal disappointment for me was Dark Waters. It's not like I was anticipating this one super strongly or anything, but given my kind of personal connection that I talked about in the episode to the subject matter, and just in general enjoying those kind of legal dramas, and, I called it Cole Core in the actual episode, but I realize now that Cole Punk is a better name for this genre of sad Appalachia movies. And so, it just ended up being pretty dry, pretty boring. So that was pretty disappointing to me. I think my grand prize, so to speak, has to go to Knives Out. Not that I hated this movie or anything, but from the trailers, from the pedigree involved with the actors, and from Rian Johnson having enjoyed Brick and having, appreciated what he was trying to do with The Last Jedi, at least, I was excited for this one. Having seen it, it didn't do what I expected or wanted it to do, and I don't especially think that what it accomplished trying to do would accomplish that well. So I was left feeling a little middled about it, and I think the reason that I'm giving this one the edge over Rise of Skywalker is that going into this, like, Rian Johnson's name on a movie was something that would entice me, because I did watch and enjoy one of his earlier films, Brick, and, again, like, appreciate what he was trying to do with The Last Jedi. After rewatching The Last Jedi and after watching this movie, I don't think he's quite my style. So, it's a little disappointing to be put off by a director's body of work. That's always a bit of a moment. similar to a lesser extreme how I felt about Neil Blomkamp after walking on Chappie. So,
yeah, my three are a little bit different. Mine were more kind of mine are all honestly expectations. I was hoping two of them are horror movies that I was hoping would be better, and one of them is gonna kind of come out of left field. I tell you that much. So one we talked about on the podcast, which was Velvet Buzzsaw. I think I was the one who might have even suggested we talk about it.
You were.
Because I absolutely adore Jake Gyllenhaal. It looked like a gross, over-the-top horror movie that was really compelling to me. And then it ended up being pretty meh. I mean, there are some moments in it, some ideas in it that were all right. But overall, I was just kind of let down. Still love Jake. He's in that John Mulaney and the Sack Lunch Bunch, actually. And he's absolutely wonderful in it. But he couldn't save fucking Velvet Buzzsaw. It was just kind of a letdown. The kills were uninteresting. The horror was non-existent almost. And yeah, it just kind of petered into nothingness in my brain. I will always have a vague memory of it. The trailer with the woman putting her arm in the thing and getting blood splattered everywhere is forever ingrained in my brain. It's too bad that was the most interesting shot in the movie.
Womp womp.
My second one is also a horror movie. Goes to Black Christmas, a movie that we did not talk about on the podcast, but I wrote a review for, which you can read over on 25yearslatersite.com. My problem with this one is that, like, it is so fucking close to being, like, the next big feminist horror movie. Like, the one that everyone watches and everyone loves. But I think the fact that it got rated at PG-13 really fucking stifled it. Because it lacks any and all bite. It just kind of became there, honestly. It clearly has a lot of rage. It clearly has a lot of anger at very worthy targets, but in its execution, it kind of whiffs more than punches, which fucking sucks because it was almost a really, really, really good movie. But instead came out to a big resounding eh. Lastly, is Cats? It's Cats. Cats is one of my most disappointing, not because I thought it was going to be good, but because I was hoping it would be so bad it's good. Instead, it ends up being 40 minutes of so bad it's good, where you just spend it staring at the screen going, what the actual fuck, what the fuck, what the fuck, why is it so horny, oh my god. And then around minute 40, it's really mundane, because somehow the movie managed to normalize how horrifying and horny it is, and it just all feels monotonous. And then you just get fucking pee-pee poo-poo the ass-licking cat to come in, lick its ass for 3 minutes, and then McCavity goes, "You are gone!" And it goes away, and then the next cat walks in and does the same thing for an hour and 10 minutes. An hour and 10 minutes. It sucks. It's boring. Don't watch it.
It's nice to know from Sean's review here that I can get the same experience of the fun of watching Cats from just hanging around a Sonic-focused DeviantArt page for about 45 minutes.
Yeah, because eventually it just gets boring. That's what this is. But you didn't spend $12 to sit and watch it.
I actually, I have one more dishonorable mention that not dishonorable mention, but disappointment that I actually wanted to mention as a result of what you were just talking about a minute ago.
All right.
Because so I was thinking about Black Christmas, and like, I didn't see Black Christmas, but the way you're describing it, like it could have been like Get Out, but for feminism, but it wasn't, right?
Yeah.
So speaking of Get Out, Us came out this year, and I completely forgot that it did. And I feel like nothing about that movie. And that's really disappointing, because I really, really love Get Out.
It's been sitting on... I've been looking at it on my list. I have it in the category of good. Because it's a good movie. Just not super memorable.
It's again, like, this is definitely not a bad movie, but I'd say, like, a big step down from Get Out. So I don't know. Yeah, that's the last thing I wanted to mention.
I was gonna say, the only thing I really remember from it is Tim Heidecker, because it's Tim Heidecker.
I remember Tim Heidecker and Lupita Nyong'o. She's the main girl in that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I remember other stuff, mind you. I just wanted to talk about Tim Heidecker because I think he's absolutely ridiculous.
I can't believe Tim Heidecker is allowed to just be in movies after all that he's done. But yeah, so not to be too much of a downer, but I feel like literally forgetting about the existence of a film from a promising filmmaker warrants some mention in the disappointment section.
Just as a quick aside, because this is going to be a long episode anyway, and I don't give a fuck, I want to talk about this for a second. Ant-Man and the Wasp. At one point in it, Paul Rudd calls someone their pep, and I go, hang on. That's a fucking Tim and Eric reference. What the fuck? And then about 40 minutes later, Tim Heidecker shows up, waltzes in for about 5 minutes, and leaves. And I go, that explains it.
Did that come out this year, or am I having brain parasites?
That came out last year.
Last year, okay. I couldn't remember if it came out right before Infinity War or Endgame. It must have been Infinity War. Okay.
Well, no, it came out after Infinity War.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, oh man, all these Marvel movies in my brain.
All right, let's get positive again. Let's talk about good things. But let's keep it tight and short because we got a bunch of them.
Yes.
Honorable mentions. I'm gonna knock these out real quick for me.
Yeah, do it.
Uncut Gems. Best thing I can say about it. It made me forget that Adam Sandler made Jack and Jill while I was in it. Which, if that's not a glowing review of this movie, I don't know what is. Because not a lot can make me forget of the travesties Adam Sandler has done. It fucking ruled. It was very, very good. Parasite. It's incredible. If you have thought about film in the past 3 months, you've probably heard about Parasite. Absolutely incredible movie. Really, really good. Wonderful, wonderful movie. Ad Astra. We were going to talk about it on the podcast. We talked about it for half an hour. And then I realized it made me confront some things that I didn't want made public. And we backed away from it. And that should also be a pretty glowing review. In that it made me confront things about myself, which is a sign of any good film. You know, if it made you actually think about things and look at who you are, hey, more power to it. Ad Astra, very good.
And keep in mind, we're the monsters who outed ourselves as monsters in the Shining episode, if that's any indication.
And lastly, I do need to talk about The Lighthouse, because of course I do. I just said I love fucking weird movies, and it's the weirdest of the weird. It's so good. It was wild. They let him shoot it in fucking 4:3 black and white in 2019. What the fuck? So good. Go watch it.
Sickening in the best possible way.
Hey, editor Sean here, and because I'm editing this, I'm allowed to do this. I saw Little Women the day after we recorded this on the last day of 2019, and I just need to give it a huge shout out. That movie is absolutely incredible. It probably would have edged out Terminator Dark Fate to be in my top 3 had I seen it a day prior, but I didn't, so it's just worth mentioning that Little Women is a great movie, and you should go watch it. Back to Jackson.
All right, so broadly speaking, I have 2 categories of honorable mentions, like genuine honorable mentions who didn't quite make the cut for my top. And there's really only one, maybe 2, but I'd consider the second one more of my other category. My big honorable mention is Peanut Butter Falcon. Not the most like complex, complicated movie in the world. Kind of just a big old heartwarmer. But when I say movies that take place in the South are extremely aesthetic, this is what I'm fucking talking about. Setting is great. Great buddy chemistry between Shia LaBeouf and the other main lead, and lots of charm, lots of fun, laughs, and sadness. It's, again, everything you'd want out of a Hollywood movie. Hollywood done right. As far as my other honorable mentions, these are mostly, broadly speaking, what I would call pleasantly surprised. Movies that I had either low or no expectations for. Most of them I had pretty low expectations for, but nonetheless I found myself delighted and thinking about them at various points throughout the year. Although I if I had to single out one, if only to make Sean mad, I am going to single out Joker, that I really that I really enjoyed a lot more than I thought I would. But other than that, earlier mentioned Terminator Dark Fate definitely falls in this category. Detective Pikachu, I felt joy in my heart. I like Detective Pikachu better than the actual Pokemon game they released this year, I think. Toy Story 4, pleasantly surprised. Not as good as the other ones, but still a good time at the movies. Hobbs and Shaw, I love me some spy fiction, and it was exactly what the doctor ordered. And Shazam, superhero movies don't have to be generic and stupid.
And they can make references to the mist in them.
They can and have done that.
For like 3 people in the world to get and go, oh!
I clapped.
Oh, and that leaves the worst movies of the year.
All right, do you want to take this one first, or should I?
You know what?
This is going to be more of a discussion, I think, because this has been a core theme throughout some of the episodes of what is truly the worst kind of movie? Is it the offensively bad movies or the boringly bad movies?
Well, let's kind of go down like the 4 potential contenders, and like 2 of these are going to be. All right, let's just go down the contenders because there's going to be a couple of them. 2 of them are going to move right out, but they're worth mentioning.
Yeah.
So Serenity and the Fanatic are both what we would call so bad they're good. There's joy to be had from them. They're fucking terrible, terrible, stupid movies, but if you're the right type of person, you're gonna find some joy in them.
See, with Serenity in particular, I wasn't even expecting you to bring this up here. That movie was such a fucking hoot.
I mean, it is. It's totally. It's terrible, but it's great.
I mean, the Fanatic rides that line a little more in terms of being offensive, but there's definitely memes to be had there.
Absolutely, the Fanatic is. If you are unfamiliar, we did it in a bonus episode. If you're a patron, go listen to the bonus episode. If you're not, just know that John Travolta plays a man on the spectrum. That's your warning for the movie.
It turns out exactly like how you'd expect.
Yes, which means that there are moments that are funny because it's just a bad movie, and then there's also moments where they're like look and laugh at John Travolta as a man on the spectrum, which is where it gets more to the offensive part and isn't great. The other options here we have are Brightburn, The Lion King, and The Good Liar. Do you have any else you want to add?
No, I think you summed up all the biggest offenders.
So, spoilers for The Good Liar, and by spoilers for The Good Liar, I mean fuck you, don't watch The Good Liar. It fucking sucks. It ends with a really, really offensive, shitty twist that comes completely out of left field and absolutely blows. Don't watch The Good Liar. Brightburn, conventionally bad movie. Really stupid. Just dumb. Did not like. And The Lion King, which I'll let Jackson explain.
So The Lion King is a special kind of bad for me. Because one, it's boring. Very, very boring. And almost egregiously so, considering that it's based on very fun, very exciting source material. So it's not just that it's a bad remake, or that it's a movie who I have like a nostalgic like investment in. It's like, it's all of those things. It's that they took something great and made not only something boring and modern Disney-ified, but like something so boring that like I actually went before we recorded this today because I had a long drive. I wouldn't re-listen to our Lion King episode, and I stand by my statement that like if you're a person studying film or just any kind of writing in general, watch The Lion King 94 and The Lion King 19 back to back and take notes at what makes for an exciting script, for an exciting movie, for good animation, and just see how the new one manages to fuck up everything really, really, really badly. So, is it as bad, strictly speaking, in the conventional sense, as, Brightburn or The Good Liar? I mean, probably not. On the other hand, this is the only movie that I've ever walked out of in the fucking theater. This movie made me feel like I could feel my life slipping away from me. Like precious minutes that I'll never get back sitting through the fucking Lion King. And I can't say that's a feeling even with the worst movies that we watched this year that I had. So I think by that metric, Lion King has to be my worst of the year.
So I'm gonna take Brightburn and I'm gonna kick it out of contention for myself, just because I think it had some ideas and it had some alright horror moments to it. It wasn't the absolute dregs. It was stupid and bad in a lot of ways, but like it genuinely had some pretty decent horror to it and some ideas, which is more than can be said of some movies. But The Good Liar is the movie that I feel like I could have walked out of this year had the twist not come in like the last 5 minutes. Because I left the theater and then went to Target to like pick up lunch or something and just walked around Target going, what the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? It was irresponsible and reprehensible, and retroactively made me hate everything about that movie. So I think that's where mine goes. I'm not as angry as Jackson about The Lion King, but we were talking about this in the pre-discussion. Mulan's coming out this year, and Mulan was my favorite, so we might be getting a repeat.
Buckle up, boys! We're in for another Disney shit show. Alright, so 2 things before we move on, while we're still down in the dregs. I also wanted to give special mention because if I had to rank like my dishonorable mention in terms of second, I'd probably say Brightburn, if only because The Good Liar, I was almost too bewildered. Like, I got fucking whiplash from The Good Liar. Like, so much so that it wasn't until like hours later that like the full extent of how horrible it was really hit me. Which is so like, and that and the rest of the movie I didn't feel like I had to suffer through. Even though like at its worst, like, you know, The Good Liar probably for its twist had like the lowest individual moment at the movies for me this year. Brightburn, on the other hand, took what was a promising premise, theoretically, and, like, almost immediately yeeted it into the bin with some stupid plot decisions.
With the lawnmower.
Yeah, the lawnmower, like, from that point forward, and when he downloads evil Superman into his brain, also there was definitely, it's easy to forget because, like, The Good Liar was more egregious, but there was some fucked up like social shit going on in Brightburn as well. That also left a sour taste in my mouth. I think especially paired with the premise that made me that steamed my beans pretty hard. So biggest disappointment retroactively goes to the general public for buying so many tickets for Lion King, including myself, to the point where it is now the 7th highest grossing movie of all time, I believe.
Oh my god.
Artist
right.
Dead, shave your head.
Let's get into the spoiler shit here. We've been already going for like 45 minutes, so get ready, buckle up. We're in the back half now, boys. We're gonna talk. Hang on, I'm trying to figure out how I want to say this. Next week is the start of a new year. We have some stuff planned for that. Stay tuned. Because we know what we're doing next week. We're gonna kind of keeping it close to the chest for now. But listen to next week's episode, at least the first half of it, because we've got some treats in January. We think we've been busy. It's been a busy couple weeks. All right, just bear with us for a little bit.
I'm recording this from a basement.
So here's what your schedule is going to look like. Take it away, Editor Sean. Hey, Editor Sean here. We've got 5 things coming up. We have best character, stupidest moment. We have a spoiler-free section of movies that we're looking forward to in 2020. We have the most pointless death, and we have the most effective death. Before each section, I'm going to let you know what the winning movies are, and then I'm going to give you a timestamp to skip to if you don't want spoilers for those movies. Skip around to your heart's content, find what you want to listen to, and enjoy the rest of the Horsies. So for now, let's start with another positive. You know, we had a low. Let's get back into the highs. Best character of the year. Ed or Sean here. Your winners are Midsommar and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. If you want to avoid spoilers, skip ahead to 54 minutes, 25 seconds. And Jackson, start us off.
So, my best character of the year, and I guess to clarify, this didn't necessarily have to be like a new character or even someone who was fictional. You know, anyone in a movie could be considered a character. But the person that I have listed here is a new character and is fictional, so wah-hey. But I'm gonna have to go with Rick Dalton, Leonardo DiCaprio's character from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. The real emotional core of that movie, I think that his performance is absolutely fucking spectacular. His struggles with, like, his acting career, barely relevant to the Sharon Tate plot that I would consider, like, the main plot. Like the Charles Manson stuff, barely relevant at all. But very much made the movie for me. Like, the fact that he plays such a neurotic, insecure, like, vulnerable person, the interaction he has when he's reading that novel to the girl, to the child actress on set, and just has a breakdown and, like, emotionally confides in her. That was really powerful stuff, especially considering, you know, on multiple levels, that Tarantino has a fondness for kind of resurrecting the careers of these guys who are, like, in dead-end sort of acting jobs, working in Italian films, as he says in the movie. And that Tarantino himself, you know, this is his penultimate movie if he follows his plan of only making his canon of 10 films before moving on to other art forms. So I feel a little bit of that existential angst kind of coming from the film's author as well, of, like, you know, I'm getting old, I'm not the you know, hot young stud that I was, you know, on top of the world with my bold, like, independent films. I'm part of the system now. Do I still got it? Like, and all those anxieties that come from being in that position. And I think that it's that sort of tenderness and empathy with that character that you kind of don't really see from a lot of Tarantino's, like, larger-than-life cowboys and gangsters and, you know, other stuff, and even other characters in the movie, like Brad Pitt's character. So yeah, really, really love Rick Dalton, really love Tarantino, really love Leo. Great work, guys.
Mine is a little bit weirder, I would say, because while Jackson's best character comes from his number one movie of the year, mine comes from a movie I haven't even mentioned yet, but one we did on the podcast. Midsommar was a movie that I thought was pretty good, but had some flaws, some pretty major flaws, honestly. I really want to rewatch it, but the one thing I will say that has stood out for me is Florence Pugh's performance as Dani. The character was just really well acted. Her whole arc going through of someone who lost a family member, kind of found new family members, and subsequently murdered her boyfriend, was... I was trying to get through that without laughing, and I couldn't. It was really good. I really liked watching her whole story. I thought it was kind of fascinating. I thought that, I mean, she basically spent the entire movie crying, but, like, in a very believable way, and I really, really liked that. It's if, like, I close my eyes and think about characters and movies I saw this year, she sits very much at the forefront, honestly. I mean, even of the movies that I really, really like, Terminator Dark Fate, I remember more of a feeling than actual characters. I mean, I guess I could give a shout out to Dolomite, but hey, no, I like Florence Pugh. That's what I got. I don't really have as much of an in-depth thing as Jackson does. It's a gut feeling I have that I liked Dani in Midsommar.
Like the cut of her jib, which is just great.
Exactly. All right.
Let's get back to the negatives. Let's get into these hot and spicy. Let's get into the dumbs. Let's get into the dumb moments. The stupidest moment of the year in movies.
Our winners for Stupidest Moment go to The Fanatic and Serenity. Two movies which honestly probably don't need spoiler warnings. They're terrible and you're not going to watch them. But we're going to put it in there anyway. If you don't want to hear our takes on The Fanatic and Serenity, skip ahead to 59 minutes, 18 seconds. Oh my god. This was perhaps my easiest pick of the fucking year. Patrons, you know it. Our horselings, you're well aware of what my stupidest moment is. You know what my stupidest moment is.
Does it involve the director of said film?
You know, it might. So, if you have not listened to our bonus episode about The Fanatic, here is what you need to know beyond what you already know from the beginning. The movie was directed by Fred Durst. That's right, Fred Durst, the lead singer of Limp Bizkit. The movie has an extended scene wherein the dad, one of the dad characters in the movie, is driving with his son, looks at him, goes, "Hey, mind if I put on a little music?" The kid goes, "Sure." And he goes, "Great. How about a little biscuit?" And then we spend 40 seconds of an 88-minute runtime of a movie with 10 minutes of credits. This movie uses 40 seconds to play Limp Bizkit music, in which the dad's like, "Oh yeah, Limp Bizkit, man. Hell yeah." Something no human being has ever said.
Oh man, amazing.
It is so dumb, and I love every second of it. I have it saved on my desktop. It is a scene I have watched multiple times, and I have made literally everyone I can think of watch. It's so good.
That's incredible. Holy shit. I didn't realize that Sean was so deranged just to have that scene saved. That makes it
so
even better.
Good though. How could you not?
Well, my moment is less an individual scene, more of a plot twist or a revelation. One that we debated very thoroughly. I think the only time we ever got close to this heated in a beating a dead horse discussion was about fucking Star Wars, and that was even in a pre-discussion.
Honestly, we got feisty on that one, but we're like, no, that's not who we are. That's not unless we're talking about this.
Unless we're talking about the film Serenity, starring Matthew McConaughey as Baker Dill.
I always forget that's his name.
And now the fact that his name is Baker Dill might be enough to warrant being on the stupidest moment list. But the actual stupidest moment has to go to the twist, which reveals that Baker Dill is not a man. He's not a father. He is, and this is where the debate came in, either a player avatar for his, finger quote, son's video game that he was making, which has some dark implications, considering one of the first scenes in the movie is that he prostitutes himself out to a cougar, being controlled by his son, or he's fucking Chappie.
God, watch this movie. Seriously, if y'all haven't listened to this episode or you haven't watched this movie, go fucking watch this movie.
And I, of course, without rehashing the entire debate, I take the stance that the movie only makes sense if he's a sentient AI, if he's Chappie. But that's you can decide. Watch the film, listen to that episode.
Of 20 minutes of us screaming at each other about absolute nothing.
So, I mean, if I had to pick an individual scene, that was the stupidest moment. I think retroactively it is Matthew McConaughey prostituting himself to a cougar, because regardless of whether he's being controlled by his son or his son has just set him up as like a Sims program and is watching him do it, no. Wrong way.
Oh, boy, howdy. Oh, that's a rough one. So we're gonna break out of spoilers for a little bit here. We're gonna talk about positives again. We're gonna talk about movies that we're looking forward to in the year of our Lord 2020.
Brand new decade.
Brand new
of
decade.
Disney dominance.
So what Disney movies are you looking forward to in 2020, Jackson? What movies will you consume?
None of them. None of them, actually. That's probably not true. I'm sure. I think there's a Pixar thing coming out about elves that I might watch.
Oh my god, the fucking one where they resurrect half their dad?
Yes, that looks like a good meme. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, Disney animation is a different matter from their live action shit.
It is. It's still Disney. You shill.
All right. But what am I actually looking forward to? So, I don't think this has technically gotten a wide release yet. So this is technically a 2019 movie, but I won't get the chance to see it until 2020. The trailers look great. It looks like a pulse-pounding action thrill ride. 1917, the World War One trench warfare, almost like horror-looking movie in some parts, which I guess is the appropriate way to do World War One. So that looks super fucking cool.
Did you know that it's designed to look like it's all one continuous shot?
I did not know that, actually. That's also neat.
So, yeah, good. Enjoy it. Let me know what you think of it. I have no interest.
And then I'll just, the rest of these are all pretty related. You know, as I've said, as I've mentioned, I'm a big fan of spy fiction. So even though I'm not expecting any of these, except potentially one of them, just based on the filmmaker, to be like my movie of the year or anything, I still got my eye on them for one reason or another. After Kingsman: The Golden Circle, I thought I would never step foot into a theater playing a new Kingsman movie ever again, because that movie was a huge disappointment and a big letdown. I gotta say, period piece origin story for the organization, solid hook. Doesn't have the plot baggage from the last two, meaning that maybe they can do some interesting stuff. So, you know what? I'm here for it one more time. So The King's Man. As far as spies, we have the return of James Bond. And even though there's only like a couple James Bond movies I've seen that I would consider truly great movies, I always have a good time with them. Just love the aesthetic, just love, seeing the trippy, like, theme song and the, like, classic James Bond openings, the gadgets, the villains, all that shit. Even the bad James Bond movies I have a reasonably good time with. So, No Time to Die, looking forward to it.
You got time to see it, though.
Fuck you. And finally, this is the movie that, out of all these, I'd say I'm most interested in, just again, because I am a basic bitch white boy, and that is Tenet, directed by, of course, Christopher Nolan, one of my favorite filmmakers, creator of my top 2 favorite movies ever, the basic Reddit white boy taste that is me. He's only made one movie that I've watched and did not like, and that was The Dark Knight Rises, and that was a sequel. So, yeah, hopefully this is a good time.
Mine are a little bit... I don't like where I'm going with that sentence. I'm going to retake that. I've heard...
Were you about to call me basic? Is that what was about to happen?
No, it was not.
Because if so, you can just do it.
No, I was going to say mine are a little bit weirder, but that's not entirely true. My first one's Wonder Woman 84, so...
Oh, okay.
I've heard Tenet kind of has like a Braid feel to it from the trailers. I haven't watched the trailer for it yet, but I've heard comparisons to the indie darling classic Braid. So I'm kind of curious to see where that goes myself. But it's not on my list. Instead, what I have on my list is Wonder Woman 1984. Wonder Woman absolutely ruled. The poster for Wonder Woman 1984 makes me really excited. The trailer, I'm still pretty excited about it. I wish it was a little bit more vibrant like the poster. But hey, I like the first one. I hope I like the second one. It looks pretty alright.
Not on my list of movies that I'm like super pumped for, but a movie that I'm excited for nonetheless. So I agree.
I also have a movie that technically came out in 2019, but I want to see anyway. It's called The Wave. It's about a dude going through like a drug trip and it like tearing away his reality and whatnot. It's not super well rated, but it looks interesting enough, and I'm into movies that aren't super well rated. I tend to find a lot of weird enjoyment in them. I also am very excited about Dune, they're trying Dune again. The last person to try Dune was the Twin Peaks guy, David Lynch, and it didn't go great. I really want to watch it because it's apparently fucking buck wild, but it's not great from what I've heard. But this time they brought on Denis Villeneuve, the guy who did Arrival, amongst other movies. I absolutely adore Villeneuve. I've enjoyed every movie I've watched of his. He's really talented. So I'm hoping for good things from Dune. And lastly, I need to talk about Color Out of Space, which is, if you're unfamiliar, an adaptation of a Lovecraft story. So, I mean, come on.
Just scoop it into Sean's mouth, let him slurp his tongue around.
But I feel like I do need to say this every time I mention that I like Lovecraft stories. I don't like Lovecraft as a person. The racism and stuff, get it out of here. He's so bad that, like, I can't say I like Lovecraft without including that I don't like that.
I can see the complicated sweat drop coming out of your forehead right now, even as you speak.
It's so important to mention because he's such a shitlord.
It's okay, Sean. We all have problematic faiths.
All right. You want to get back into spoilers?
Let's get back into spoilers. Let's we came in for a breath of fresh air. Let's dive back into the muck with our next negative category. The only one that we've retained from previous years.
Yeah, we were trying to we're gonna end on the last two, which are going to bring us back into like our death theming, something that we've kind of gravitated away from the longer this podcast has gone on. Mostly because we realize that it's way more interesting to talk about themes and stuff than death. Mostly because death rarely has much to do with themes. So yeah, let's talk about our most pointless death. Your winners are Dr. Sleep and Star Wars Rise of Skywalker, with a little bit of added spoiler warning for Avengers Endgame and Star Wars Last Jedi. If you want to skip these and cut right to the final most effective death, jump ahead to 1 hour, 11 minutes, and 2 seconds.
So I'll just get mine out of the way because it's pretty quick. Because I talked about it at length in the actual episode that was very recently. Dishonorable mention, actually, now that I think about it. Probably the stupidest decision Disney has made narratively was to kill Black Widow in Avengers Endgame permanently when they have a movie about Black Widow coming out next year. That one gets a special pointlessness because not only do they have now a pointless prequel about her coming out, but they also had the gall to have a scene where they try to show off how woke they are by having all the female heroes who never met fighting, even though minutes earlier they just fridged their, like, main, like, female hero that's been the star, like, a co-star of several movies at this point. That wasn't a great look. So, the special dishonorable mention to Black Widow. But my main one is actually going to be Kylo Ren. Not surprising to anyone, I talked about this in our Rise of Skywalker episode. And, he was the strongest thing about the new movies, both as a character and Adam Driver as a performer. They maybe could have done stuff with him. The way they handled this story was kind of poopy. And, then he just dies to make it completely like Return of the Jedi. And, that's a real shame. Creatively bankrupt, definition of pointless, I would say.
Well, I'm going to bounce off yours and give my dishonorable mention first, because my dishonorable mention is the Star Wars, but technically a Star Wars movie that is 2 years old now. Because Rise of the Skywalker basically made Snoke's death, which was intentionally pointless in The Last Jedi, even more pointless. Like, it's insane how much it fucking invalidated of The Last Jedi. And, like, that I feel like is just, like, the crux of it. Right there. Is Snoke's death in The Last Jedi was to say that this big bad doesn't fucking matter. We're not doing Palpatine again. And then they're like, just kidding. As opposed to not doing Palpatine again, we're literally doing Palpatine again. Oh, and also, Palpatine has clones of Snoke in a jar. Like, just, like, a bunch of them, like pickles in a jar. Like, just all mashed up against the glass. It's really fucking dumb. Go fuck yourself. I didn't
Oh
expect to
my
get
god,
that mad about that again.
it really is like a snake eating its own tail of pointlessness and stupidity. Like there was a purposefully pointless death, and then a pointless resurrection of Palpatine, and a pointless creation of more. Like there's so many layers to it.
It's so stupid. But technically, that didn't come out this year, so I can't talk about that. Instead, I want to talk about Doctor Sleep, a movie that I really liked. I was not expecting to like it as much as I did, but I thought Doctor Sleep kind of fucking ruled. Except for the fact that they killed Doctor Sleep's buddy Billy Freeman, just kind of because. Like they're all setting up this end climactic battle, and this dude who is hanging out with Doctor Sleep the entire time. And I really liked as a character. He was friendly, he was nice, he was cool, he was charming. They just killed him because he would be too useful in the final battle. So you gotta put him away. Gotta put him back in the ground. Can't let that happen.
Yeah, completely agreed. It's a real shame. Yeah, on all counts, nothing really to add.
Yeah, I mean, dishonorable mention, the dad in that movie too, who died for no real reason. It's all kind of it's kind of a shitty movie to its black characters, but black men specifically. But yeah, it's not great. I was bummed. I liked every character in that movie, and they just kind of killed a couple of them unceremoniously and kind of fucking sucked. So, whoopsie.
Womp womp.
But listen, we promised that this was going to be a positive episode, and we're going to end on a positive note that's also kind of a sad note, because it's the best death. It's the most memorable scene, be it death or otherwise. Death, right? We're talking death.
Yeah, we're talking death.
We talked about this in the pre-discussion, so enjoy some background noise as I tried to remember what we decided on. But yeah, we're gonna end on some positivity here, and the best death of the year for us.
Now, this one kind of sprung off because we were already leaning towards this in the previous year. We had Saddest Death, which worked fine in 2017. We both had a pretty clear-cut example. But death can raise more emotions, especially in movies, than just sad. And so I think that Best Death is nice because it still encompasses sad as like most emotionally affecting, but it also can be judged by several criteria.
And we took it that step further to make it most effective, which means that it basically, whatever hit us in the way that the scene wanted us to hit. Not necessarily sad, not necessarily best, but really effective in doing what it wanted to do.
Yeah, and I think that's a nice final grand horsey to give out here.
Your winners are The Lighthouse and Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, with a spoiler-free shout-out to Parasite. If you don't want to hear us talk about those movies, skip ahead to 1 hour, 17 minutes, and 14 seconds for our conclusions. So my most effective is on a very, functional level. This is a death that, it set out to make you uncomfortable, and it absolutely did. And that's going to be the kid in Scary Stories, specifically the kid in the hospital when they get the lumbering large people mass, I don't know what to call that, coming right for him on each hallway, and it's super claustrophobic, it's super uncomfortable to watch, and it's just absolutely effective and very, very good at being a kill in a horror movie, because it makes you scared, it makes you unnerved, and it makes you cringe through your chair, which is what you want a horror movie to be, especially when it's PG-13, unlike It Chapter 2, which was R and had no good horror movie kills. I don't know why I slipped that in there, other than the fact that It Chapter 2 sucked.
I mean, that single scene from Scary Stories was probably the single scariest movie scene of the year for me. Holy shit, that one made me lose my fucking mind.
There's some other really good ones in that movie too. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark was really good at creating effective, tense scenes that resulted in people dying. So, shout outs to Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, just through and through, very, very good filmmaking, very, very tense, very effective with its kills. I do also have to shout out another movie. And this is one that we haven't talked on the podcast, and one that I'm going to not give any real spoilers to because Jackson hasn't seen it, and I want him to go in as blind as possible. But I have to shout out Parasite. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, go watch Parasite. Holy shit. Holy shit. Holy shit. Very good.
Very good.
That's all I can say about it. I don't want to say anything more because it's an absolutely incredible movie. Highly recommended.
I would just like to shout out Sean as a bro, because I even offered to take off my headphones and so he could explain for the dear viewer what the scene in question was, but he wanted to keep me around for that bond of friendship. So y'all got wrecked.
Kind of lost the plot there, buddy. Kind of lost it.
I meant to say a nice thing. I did my best.
Speaking of plot, though...
Oh, hey, who could have guessed that the thing that I would choose as my most effective death had to do with theme? Who would have guessed? We're talking about another movie on my top 3. We're talking about The Lighthouse. We're specifically talking about the ending that arguably made the movie for me. Because, like I said, I had a real... I mean, and this is intentionally so. This is why the movie's such a fucking masterpiece. I had a real complicated viewing relationship with The Lighthouse. I was really, really bored for a while. But that made the payoff all the more satisfying when, Robert Pattinson, his character's frustration and about being kept out of the lighthouse by Willem Dafoe's character, and all the conflict and all the tension and all the insanity that rises as a result. Him being kind of like in a place of lesser power. When he finally snaps and when he finally kills Willem Dafoe, in a scene that also deserves its own mention, is just so fucking weird when he walks him like a dog outside and makes him dig his own grave. He finally goes up to the top of the lighthouse, and we just get a long extended shot in like silence of Robert Pattinson cackling, screaming, laughing mad as he stares into the light. What does he see? Is it, some sort of mystical thing? Is it just nothing at all? Is it just the light? Either way, it doesn't matter. We can feel the existential dread of having achieved a goal that wasn't worth it. And then when he goes and breaks his neck and tumbles down the stairs, just that whole image, that whole fucking scene. Perfect payoff to a fucking fantastic movie.
I mean, it's a real... Well, listen, if you've gotten this far... and you haven't watched any of our fucking recommendations, go watch our recommendations. What are you doing? They're all bangers.
We have such good taste. We're taste makers. We're critics. Bow. Sniff my feet, you animal.
Christ, Jackson. Positivity.
Sean, I can't help being who I am.
You should try.
Wait! I have one last thing to say.
Okay.
In terms of positivity, you know what? You're right. New year, new me. Apparently not.
Oh my God, we're losing our goddamn mind here, huh?
Form follows function. We did end up talking about the lighthouse. So I just want to say, in previous years, in 2017, I talked a little bit about video games, and want to talk a little bit about video games here. Give a special shout out to my game of the year, 2019, Mournful Sword. Have you not heard of it? Probably not. It's an action platformer on Steam with a little cute story. Cute's maybe not the right word. There's some existential dread to it, as any good piece of art has. And great action gameplay. If you're into that sort of thing, check it the fuck out. It's only $7. You can buy a sandwich with that kind of money. You don't need that fucking burrito, you hog.
What is this energy you are bringing?
I don't know, Sean. This is nothing. But no, seriously. My good friend, my pal, my cousin, the man I'm actually bought out by, not Disney, made this game Mournful Sword in 2019. I just wanted to shout him out. I'm pretty sure I promised him some airtime on the show that I never gave to him, and so this seems like a good opportunity to do it. Don't be too confident his movie takes, though. His movie of the year is Alita Battle Angel.
Oh god, that's a lot to unpack. That's a lot to unpack.
Well, we did it, Sean. We may have arrived at madness, but we've completed another Horsies. How do you feel?
Oh, you know what? I feel pretty good. I feel like every year we're getting a little bit better at this. We're growing as critics, as consumers, as podcasters. And, like, I love it. I love what we do every year. I'm really excited about this one. I'm really excited about next year's Horsies, too. Like, I'm calling it right now. Horsies 2020, absolute banger of an episode.
Absolute banger. Think about all the training, all the character development we've done as critics, and apply all that next year. Except, I guess I haven't done much development because I had the stagnant opinion about Last Jedi. So I guess I'm stuck in a rut. But Sean will grow and leave me in the dust. So stick around for that.
Oh man. Is there anything we want to say, like, in conclusion, in wrapping up this year? Like, what are your thoughts?
I think as far as 2019, I've said all that I need to, but I just want to take a moment after debasing you with that daddy energy, viewers. Genuinely, thank you all so much for listening in. I love doing this show. I love that you guys seem to love listening to the show. I love getting your feedback. Yeah, just real special shout out. My heart goes out to you all.
Y'all are absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for continuing to support us. It's been 2.5 years. We're still doing this. We don't really know why. We can say it's for you guys, and it is to a certain extent. But it's also to slowly drive ourselves mad. If you just want the honest to God truth. But we do genuinely appreciate all of y'all turning up, listening to our stuff. If you haven't given us a review on iTunes and you want to, that'd be great. If you guys want to be really cool and tell friends about us, that's great too. Share us on Facebook, Twitter, wherever. Like, help us grow. We've been doing this for so long. It's the least you can do, you ingrates. All right? That's all I'm saying.
Well, while we're insulting our viewers and creating enmity between them, I'm gonna go ahead and do our special shout outs early while we're talking about viewers that we love, because these are the viewers that we love the most. Because these are the ones in our $10 tier, our Stallion tier on Patreon, and this is their special shout out. Thank you so much, Julia, Travis, Mom, Aunt Summer. Great.
Y'all are absolutely fucking wonderful. And also shouts to everyone else on our Patreon, the $1 tiers, the $5 tiers. Y'all are absolutely wonderful. If you are unfamiliar with what we're talking about, we have a Patreon over at patreon.com/BADHcast. $1 tier gets you access to our Discord. That's $1 a month. That's nothing. That's pocket change. Go support us. $5.
You can't even buy a burrito with that. You can't even do it.
But you know what you can buy a burrito with? $5.
What?
And if you want to cut down on the carbs a little bit and save on some dough, well, you can save that dough and then instead give it to us, but then get monthly bonus episodes as a return. We have like 7 or 8 as a backlog now. Like, you got stuff to catch up on. They're fucking all bangers there. Go listen to them. $5 a month gets you access to all of our bonus episodes. That's it.
Yeah, fuck your burrito.
Yeah, fuck your burrito. Don't fuck your burrito. That seems unhealthy. At $10 a month, you also get the shout out, but you also get access to everything you've heard before, as well as to being like, yo, fuckos. Stop insulting me. And now, because you did, you have to go watch some horrible trash movie that I picked out of the garbage. I don't even know what this movie is, but you have to watch it because I said so. Ha ha. And we'd have to watch it because you paid us to. We're yours. Tell us what to do.
Ooh. Are we renaming our highest patron tier Daddy?
Oh, no. I've been Sean McKinda. You can find me on Twitter at Sean_McKinda. Find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/helpus_Skippy. Find me over at 25yearslatersite.com. I'm doing a bunch more reviews over there. I just wrote a review for Uncut Gems. You can find my Black Christmas review. I'm hoping to do more from there on. So, like, keep your eyes peeled. I might got more coming up here. Jackson?
And I've been Jackson Keller. You can find me on twitch.tv/JacksonJKeller, where, fuck, I don't even know what I'm doing. But new year, new me, right, gamers?
Hell yeah. Go follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/ what the fuck am I saying? At BADH_cast on Twitter. We tweet sometimes from there, just mostly about like updates, episodes coming out, bonus episodes, all that type of good stuff. Maybe occasionally memes. You never know.
I was just gonna say, if we're talking about our best movie moments, not from 2019, Sean, for some good cheer, I re-listened to our Santa Claus Conquers the Martians episode. I was reminded that you gifted me the joy of watching the fight scene from that movie with Metal Gear Rising music on there. And he tweeted it out on the Twitter. You can just go watch it, in addition to other strange editing bounties that Sean has done for me. Like, I don't even remember why I had you do Yoshi as Thanos, but you did it, you mad bastard.
I forgot about that. There's a bunch of weird shit you can go find. Also, thanks to Lords of the Highway for the use of our theme song. It is Suicide, alternate take off the album High Octane, Low Expectations. They're a wonderful band. You should go check them out wherever you can. Spotify, buy them albums, buy them live. I don't know what I just said. Don't worry about that. Also, thanks to 25newslettersite.com for the continued endorsement. I don't know why you guys put up with me saying buy them live, but there's a little button on their site that you can click to go to our website. But while you're there, what you should do before you go visit us, you should absolutely read all their reviews, their analyses, their criticisms, all their good shit. They've got video games, movies, TV shows, wrestling, music. You fucking name it, they're probably talking about it. It's great. Bunch of really talented people over there. Go support them.
Buy him albums, buy him. You're literally interdimensional cable Rick and Morty tier. It's amazing. Oh my god.
Oh god. All right. Next week we've got stuff coming up for you. Keep an eyes on the Twitter actually, because we'll probably be posting about that soon. Here, get excited. We might have some viewer participation. Shh. Ooh. Happy 2020. Bye.
Don't you go into the ground. Don't you go